All right, so let's talk about Peter Thiel. You've probably heard of him, the billionaire co-founder of PayPal, the very first big investor in Facebook. But to really get a handle on his impact, you've got to see him as more than just a tech mogul. He's the architect of how Silicon Valley goes after power. Today, using Max Chafkin's book The Contrarian as our map, we're going to deconstruct the Thiel playbook, piece by piece.
This quote? Wow. It just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? From anti-monopoly activist Matt Stoller. It tells you that for Thiel, it's not just business, it's about power. It's a worldview that's basically the law of the jungle. Winning is the only thing that counts. You have to grasp this one idea, because it's the key to unlocking everything else.
So, to understand the playbook, first we have to understand just how foundational Thiel's role was. He wasn't just another player in the game. In a lot of ways, he wrote the source code for how Silicon Valley thinks today.
And the scale of this claim is just massive. We're not just talking about building products here. Thiel is credited with creating an entire belief system, a philosophy that says relentless, unapologetic progress is the ultimate goal, and the societal costs, well, those are someone else's problem. This ideology became the default operating system for a whole generation of startups.
Okay, so this brings us to the first move in the Thiel playbook. And it's a big one. It's a direct attack on one of the core beliefs of capitalism, that competition is a good thing. So here's the key contrast. We're all taught that competition is great, right? It gives us better products, fair prices. Thiel, in his book 0 to 1, says, nope, that's completely wrong. He argues that competition is just a destructive war that wastes resources and kills profits. The real goal, the only goal, is to build a business so powerful, so dominant, that you escape competition altogether. In other words, you build a monopoly.
But look, having a radical idea is one thing. Actually having the power to pull it off, that's another. And that brings us to play 2, how Thiel built a network to basically enforce his will on the entire tech industry.
You've probably heard the name PayPal Mafia, but it's so much more than a catchy nickname. It describes a very real, incredibly interconnected web of founders and investors, all tied together by loyalty and a shared history. This network effectively became the funding engine for the modern internet.
And the scale of their influence is just staggering. The core members, the dons of this group, didn't just go their separate ways after PayPal, not at all. They acted like a coordinated unit, funding and advising the next wave of companies that would come to define our world. This was never just a group of friends. It was an empire-building machine, and their fingerprints are on everything from social media to literally sending rockets into space.
So, how did they actually put all this into practice? To understand Play 3, we have to go back to the beginning, back to the origin story of PayPal itself, because PayPal wasn't just a company, it was the prototype for the entire Thiel method.
You have to understand, from day one, PayPal was never about making it easier to split the dinner bill. Thiel's vision was pure libertarian disruption. He was openly talking about creating a new global currency, one that was totally outside of government control. The mission wasn't just to build a successful company, it was to fundamentally weaken the power of nation-states. The ambition was total.
So how do you pull off a mission that big? You grow at any cost. To get users, PayPal literally gave away money. They'd give you $10 to sign up and another $10 for every friend you referred. Think about that. They were spending, on average, a whopping $20 just to get a single customer. It's crazy.
And the result of that spending spree? A growth curve that was basically a vertical line. They went from a few thousand users to 1 million in just 5 months. This wasn't just fast growth, it was a strategy we now call blitzscaling. You prioritize pure, blinding speed over everything else, growing so fast that no competitor or regulator can possibly keep up. And just in case you had any doubt what their ambition was, this is what they called their internal growth tracker. Not user growth, not daily signups. They called it the World Domination Index. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about the mindset, doesn't it? This isn't commerce, it's conquest.
This quote perfectly captures that bend-the-rules mentality. When people pointed out that PayPal wasn't following the same banking laws as everyone else, Thiel didn't try to argue that they were. He just kind of shrugged and questioned the rules themselves. To him, regulations aren't fixed obstacles. They're just variables you can navigate or ignore or redefine on your path to explosive growth.
So what's the lasting impact of this whole playbook? Well, the tactics they pioneered at PayPal didn't stay at PayPal. They spread throughout the industry, creating what some people now call the Thielverse.
Thiel's philosophy of transgression, this idea that it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, became the gospel for a whole generation of tech companies. You know that famous early motto of Facebook, move fast and break things? That's pure Thiel. You see it again with companies like Uber, which just rolled over taxi laws in cities all around the world. That's the playbook in action.
So let's boil it all down. The Thiel playbook is a three-step process. First, reject competition. Aim for total monopoly. Second, build your network, your mafia, to control the flow of money and ideas. And third, treat the rules not as constraints, but as suggestions. Grow so fast that you get to write your own.
There's no getting around it. Thiel's playbook has fundamentally reshaped our economy, our culture, everything over the last 2 decades. He provided the blueprint for Silicon Valley's relentless, single-minded pursuit of dominance. And that leaves all of us with a really critical question. If he wrote the last chapter, who's writing the next one?